Greetings, Tiki here.
And Blue Dragon 5.
As we wait with bated breath for the final season of Better Call Saul, we thought we'd reminisce over the precursor to our favorite prequel series, Vince Gilligan's masterpiece, Breaking Bad. Focusing on the elements good as a Denny's birthday breakfast. The parts so bad, you'll want to drown yourself in the pool. As well as the moments that ended up breaking our hearts like the death of Mike Ehrmantraut. So join us as we talk brass tacks with the good, the bad, and the breaking. Season 5, baby. All right, Dragon. No time to spare here. I don't know why people don't want us to talk about Breaking Bad because these aren't getting good numbers, but you know what, Dragon? You and I are, we're big Breaking Bad fans, so we're going to follow this through, gosh darn it, just like the show did, and then, who knows, maybe in some alternate timeline, someone will discover these podcasts and be like, oh man, this Breaking Bad conversation is just deep and complex, and all right, so Dragon,
like an alternate timeline when we waited to right before Better Call Saul dropped.
Yeah, like that alternate timeline. So season 5, so many things to say about this season. I think we have a lot to break down here just with our bullet points. Dragon, I will say, I do think fundamentally overall, this is probably my favorite season. Don't necessarily say I'd call it the best season. I very much weigh between this and season 3. It's a very tight race between the two of them, Dragon. It's like picking between your kids. So season 4 is great. Don't get me wrong, but we kind of broke down, for me, season 4, the killer edge that season 4 is missing, that that season 3 and season 5 have in spades is, my God, the art of the cold open that we're gonna freaking break down. So, Dragon, what are your thoughts on season 5?
So yeah, season 5 is the big payoff to Vince Gilligan's promise of our premise. We're gonna take Mr. Chips and turn him into Scarface. This is the big payoff season for that promise. I think it's a narrative masterwork in our little character study of Walter White. You get 5 seasons worth of story that comes together, this season. It's for sure, I'd say, possibly the cleverest season of Breaking Bad. I mean, I gotta tell you, I think it's a question of whether it's my favorite or not. Because I mean, it's kind of like what you said with 3 and 5. But I gotta tell you, I think objectively 5 has to be the best. It's kind of hard to top when you really look at it, you really stack them against each other. 3 is great. I love it personally, but that's the thing. 5 just. I'm just still wowed by it. It's the last season amazingly captures the feeling,
especially those last 4 episodes.
Yes, especially the last 4. But here's the weird thing.
Nobody even talks about Too Hot Geely, but Too Hot Geely, man, I still.
Okay, first of all, Tahajili, not Too Hot Geely. Okay.
Sorry, Tahajili, my bad. But no one ever talks about how intense that one is, Dragon. My God.
It is for sure. Oh my God, because that's a big like. Oh God, we're trapped now. Walt's taking the bait. But here's the thing.
Were you watching the show live at that point? Because I remember that specifically was the most agonizing week I'd ever had to wait for.
No, I wasn't watching
the episode.
Oh
man, especially because I knew that Ozymandias was coming up, and the hype for Ozymandias was like at a boiling point even before it aired. Anyways, Dragon, I'm sorry. Carry on.
Anyway, what I was getting at is rewatching season 5. It kind of occurs to me, the last season really captures the feeling of Walter White by the top of season 1, where you are Walter White getting the news, and you're basically that first season you are staring down the end, which is where we're at with season 5. We're staring down the end of the story, which is adding to the tension. Like we're kind of in Walter White's shoes at the beginning, only whereas. As we are also horrified and captivated by what he's unexpectedly become since that diagnosis, all the way at the top of season 1. I'm truly just, Cranston's transformation this season is utterly stunning and ever fascinating. There should be an Aztec or an RV if we want to be gauche. If we want to just be like, let's just go for it, like an Aztec or an RV made of Emmys for this show.
Oh God.
just like
I thought you were
plated
gonna
or
say.
made.
I thought you were gonna say an Aztec-shaped Emmy, but no, that's even better.
As I'm saying, either an Aztec or an RV if we want to get ambitious, just entirely comprised of the Emmys that this show deserves and
Oh
has
man.
won and just everything. And the weird thing, the other thing, is that the second half of the season, it's kind of, I know the 3 to 4 episodes at the end, they're very much kind of, that's a landlocked movie. But honestly, if you look at it, the whole second half is kind of like an 8-hour movie, if you really
No,
look
you're
at it.
right. You're right. Yeah, absolutely.
I
I
mean,
don't deny that at all.
this can be a
Second
weird
half has
comparison.
confessions, for God's sake.
And that's what I'm saying. So because of that, it's kind of like an 8-hour movie. So it's if you look honestly at both halves of the season combined, it's going to be a weird comparison. But season 5 in total is kind of like an Infinity Saga for the Albuquerque verse. It really is. It
I
breaks
could see
down the
that.
two
I
parts.
don't even think that's that weird of a comparison. I could totally see that.
And as I said, it's kind of the perfect. It's kind of like my perfecting formula analogy, where I think Better Call Saul is as good as it is and keeps getting better and better. It's just basically the principle of Breaking Bad having figured out they broke the ground in the first place and they just kind of kept getting better as they went along. And up to the very end with season 5, they were at their peak. And even the second half of season 5, they really got even better than the first half. So it just goes to show like Better Call Saul is as bulletproof as it is today, in my opinion, because they cracked the code on season 5. So season 5 is very huge in the tomes of Breaking Bad. It's the last volume. It's huge. So big it's broken into 2 halves.
All right, well said, well said. So, yeah, with all that in mind, Dragon, let's just jump right into it. Let's get into the good. Okay, so, oh boy. So we start things off with a time jump cold open mystery. As you do, Dragon, as you do.
We go to the institution that never closes.
Dragon, this was a nuclear bomb that got dropped on me the night that this premiered, Dragon. My jaw was on the floor with this cold open.
It's really cool just having gone through it again. We set up Denny's in 4 days out and we go there at the top of 5.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I already pointed that out when we talked about 4 days out, but yeah.
Oh, I know you did. I'm just like reminding the folks that it's great. Of course, the big bomb dropping is the bacon. We bring home the bacon this season right at the top, 52. Like, oh my God, we've jumped to like the show already played slowly with time. Not in a bad way. I'm just saying like we really that's the heady thing about the show. It doesn't really span the course of 5 years, even though we have spanned the course of 5 years. The show, 3 years.
Right.
Yeah,
but,
we build a lot.
The 52. Dragon, to me, there were like 4 big takeaways, right? Like the 52 of it all, the beard, the thing in the trunk, which, my God, what a cliffhanger.
That he got from Lawson the gun guy.
And then also, more importantly, Dragon, the $100 tip, which I had so many theories about how that $100 tip was going to come back into play. I really did.
What? Why did you think the $100 tip was so important? It's just a $100 tip.
I thought the $100 tip was going to come into play because I thought that's how they were going to track him down.
Oh, well, no, it's a bit of a stretch, even.
Yeah,
but I mean, fair. Anyway,
my mind was just swimming, Dragon. It was swimming. Oh my God, it was a big deal.
So also, it's a really cool detail, the whole "live free or die" license plate, because essentially that is Walter White's philosophy, kind of encapsulated into a license plate.
For sure.
But yeah, so I'm saying with both of our cold opens, because basically the way it works, we start each kind of half season with a, with our time jump, and that's really cool about this is it's the prototype for Better Call Saul's openings with the Gene stuff.
Totally.
It's where they kind of crack the code. I'm like, hey, let's take what we did with season 2. As we're threading the needle on kind of these jumps forward in our story, but let's make them wait. Let's. we know we're sitting on like a full house here. Let's just make them wait for it. Less is more, and then my God did it. So then the second one we return to the White House. No, not that White House. The better White House.
I'm not as thrilled about just because I got it spoiled for me. Thank you, Entertainment Weekly.
And he's talked about it now. Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm just queuing it up, Dragon. Just queuing it up. I'm still bitter about it.
Anyway, so what we glean from this is so the secret's out on Heisenberg because you have like Heisenberg spray painted in the house. The pool's like it's like a skater park now. Like punk kids are breaking in, And we build up the ricin being hidden, the dime for the ricin. And of course, High Carol. High Carol just what's so great about High Carol? That's like the big foreshadowing Godfather orange is coming back. The big T up here being being like, oh my God! So Heisenberg has a reputation. The word is completely out about him. There was a build. There was a dread. Like Carol is not. That ain't just Walt. It's like, oh God, Walt. Now we know Walt's. Everyone knows about Walt. This is big.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So good stuff there. So let's get into the Vominos pest control of it all, Dragon.
Oh, Vominos pest control is so good.
This stuff absolutely carries the first half of the season, dovetails into the main thread of the second half. Great stuff. I feel like the way that they pull it off is just like a logical logic at its finest, Dragon. It really is. It's great the way that they have it's like a mobile meth lab. They just have
it's the perfected RV.
Yeah, absolutely, and I love it. It's so clever, Dragon. It's so dang clever. It's like I love how bulletproof the idea is.
Yeah, and it's something that, in theory, you'd think, why, if Walt and Jesse had hindsight, they would have started with something like this, but by the same token, they wouldn't have had the experience to see this is how it's done.
They wouldn't have had the experience, and they maybe also wouldn't have had the connections, too.
Exactly. That's they need Saul Goodman, which they did not have at the very start,
exactly.
At the very least.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, obviously, there are other factors at play, too. But yeah, sure. So also fun little Better Call Saul crossover. Ira, who, again, we see how he meets Ira in Better Call Saul now. But I love the idea that, again, we kind of see also threaded through that Better Call Saul deal, but even just taking it on its own merits. He's a B&E guy. Breaking and entering, which is how Todd very naturally enters the first. We're going to thread the needle with Todd a little bit till the big stuff comes. But just the setup, Todd. The young Aloysius lad.
I can't give enough props to Jesse Plemons just as an actor. I really hope some Army Hammer style shit doesn't go down with him, Dragon, because as of now, he is an actor that I am absolutely betting my hedging my bets on. Like, I think he's absolutely knocking every role out of the park. And he kind of started here. I'm sure he had smaller roles here and there before he got to Breaking Bad, but this was his breakout, Dragon.
What's really great about Vominos Pest Control is that it's just this brilliant idea of we can cook at every different. It's completely untraceable. We can cook at all these different houses, no suspicion at all. And what's great about it visually, just as a gimmick, and just kind of what makes it feel like kind of an RV equivalent to an extent, is that it's very by the bootstraps. It's clever.
Yeah,
it's a clever small time version of Gus's Super Lab. It's the affordable version of the Super Lab.
It was super refreshing to see like mobile locations again after 2 full seasons in the Super Lab.
Yeah, and also it's a little bit more criminal-like. It's like almost like a Dexter kill room with tarped up everything is too, which kind of adds like an element of menace to it. Speaking of elements of menace, one of the big things we should talk about in conjunction with Vominos, because I mean, it's kind of the big thing I want to hit on with Vominos is what I really love when I watch the first half of 5 is. Again, call me soft or whatnot, but I love seeing Walt and Jesse get along, like being thick as thieves.
It's the last time, Dragon.
I know.
The last time before things go terribly wrong.
That's what makes it so bittersweet because the symbol of the ricin is that the ricin is. Sorry, Vominos allows Walt and Jesse's partnership and their friendship to be at the height of its powers. One could say, where it's they're so tight. Like Jesse's giving him birthday gifts, and he's apologizing for for almost killing him in season 4. Like they've grown leaps and bounds. Like Walt feels such a swelling sense of pride and respect towards Jesse. It's like Jesse was the best student he had all along, and he never saw it coming. And all that sort of stuff. But there's that dark lily of the valleys storm cloud looming over with the ricin. And now, how do you feel ultimately about the ricin, given its payoff and everything? Because what do you think?
You know what? I forgive a lot of things about the payoff just because of Todd's involvement with it. If that makes sense. Like, I forgive a lot of things because Todd is just such a good character, and it was such a... Like, it wasn't how we expected the ricin to pay off at all.
Not at all. We kept trying to kill everybody with that ricin. Never worked.
Right. I don't know. Like, I like the way that they did it, and I think it might be looking back on it, I think it might be more satisfying to have done something like interesting with it, as opposed to just like, oh, that's how we kill Gus. There we go. Wipe our hands of it.
Let me tell you the thing about the ricin. I think what saves in season 5 is that I love how effective a symbol it is. It's kind of almost like the telltale heart thing. It's just this. It's less about the use; it's more about the symbol of it's Walt's control, his menace, the secret.
Oh, without a doubt, absolutely, you nailed it on the head. It's not about who it actually gets used on; it's about the symbol of it.
Yeah, it's the Chekhov's. Well, yeah, no, I don't think. Yeah, it would be a Chekhov.
Oh, it's the ultimate.
Guns. Yeah,
it's the ultimate Chekhov's gun, Dragon. Make no mistake.
I was trying to think if there's a better term for it, but no, it actually
is a Chekhov's gun, to be sure.
So, and that's the thing. It's the thing because it bonds Jesse and Walt in crisis always. It's bonded him with Tuco, with Gus. And ultimately, again, kind of got him out of Dodge with Gus as well. So it constantly bonds him in crisis, and it does the same here, and making him as thick as thieves, and the forgiveness that Walt gives Jesse at the top. It's and again, it's so sad to see it go so south and so dark after, because he was like, oh, I gave him a watch for his birthday. Isn't that cute? But that's another symbol in itself, which we'll get to when we get to the montage. But right. Speaking of which.
Yep. What's up?
Yes, so we perfected the montages.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
5, unequivocally. I mean, they've always been good in the Albuquerque verse. I mean, I've kind of led people to believe, Better Call Saul made him even better, but let's just take Breaking Bad for its own merits here. The montage has always been great, and they keep getting perfected as they go on, and season 5 has the top-tier montages.
I will challenge anyone to debate that Crystal Blue Persuasion is not the best montage in Breaking Bad.
Here's the thing. I agree. It's phenomenal. I have other favorites though in this season, but it's great. For example,
maybe it's just the fact that my dad is a big fan of the song, so I guess I'm a little biased, because of the song selection itself. I mean, and that can happen with songs, Dragon. That can absolutely happen with songs for me.
Well, I think the music choice in all three of them, all three of the main ones, are great. Let me tell you. So let me walk you through them. So the montages, again, they've always been good, and we just perfected them when the song choices are absolutely flawless. For example, I love On a Clear Day. Basically, when we get back in business with Vominos, when Vominos is on the uprising, we see the montage of all the tents and everything. Mm-hmm. On a clear day, you can see forever as they're making. They're basically everything's going swell for them. So you need a nice soothing montage, and that's what that is. And then we have my favorite. We just Pick Yourself Up, the Nat King Cole song. Well, I love Nat King Cole. There's my bias. But outside of that, it's the classiest murder montage ever. With the this is where the watch comes into play. I was hyping up. So it's calculated. It's calculating as Heisenberg gets. And he has the watch where he kills, I believe, 9 people. Nine of the hazard pay guys. 9 of Mike's guys. Set to 2 minutes by the watch that Jesse gave him, and that gift is a symbol of the control, of the friendship that is forged from manipulation. It's blue, which symbolizes the chemistry and the meth.
It's blue.
Exactly. And also, a bigger thing that definitely comes into play second half, Walt's time is running out. It's the watch. So, Walt's cleaning the house, and he's cleaning up the loose ends, but also it's half security, but the other half, the true reason for it, Walt's greed. Why am I paying all this hazard pay to all these guys? Why didn't we just kill them? Well, Heisenberg killed him now that Mike was out of the way, and we'll get to that sad business later.
Oh yeah.
But and your baby, a Crystal Blue Persuasion. The Empire. This is where the Empire gets built. That's why it's so great.
Yeah, Crystal Blue Persuasion. I mean, like I said, it's a song choice. It's just the editing is just liquid smooth, Dragon. It is glass smooth. Those transitions, I mean, it is like it's music video-esque in the best of ways, I think.
I mean, remember what starts it off too is just like when he's having that conversation with Hank after. I gotta be honest, I want to say it may or may not be in the same episode. I can't remember. Where after Hank gives Walt the tree marking speech. Walt just bows his head, and he comes up in front of Hank, practically on the same couch in the suit, in the hazmat suit as he's cooking. And I want to say that was one excellent montage up to another one. It might be the quickest turnaround if I'm thinking it's in the same episode. But it's just great to see. Walter has possibly dwarfed Gus Fring's operations because Lydia was going to pitch this to Gus, but then Gus got killed.
Mm.
So it just see him build an empire on meth. Heisenberg has gone global. He's gone to the Czech Republic. He's gone everywhere with the meth. That's why he has to hide out in the cabin alone. It's the perfect visualization for. Then we build to the probably the most memorable image that we have visualized in our image here, folks, on top left. So Skylar demonstrates Walt's hypocrisy in the whole, in what he says he's been doing here. Like, you're doing money, you're giving us money for the family. And of course, we realize, like, we don't need this much money. Look at this. You could do two full-grown men, one being a very large full-grown man, could sleep on this money like Scrooge McDuck.
Yeah, I remember clearly that money pile being just a big symbol of season 5, and it's great. It really is.
It's the happy season 1. Part 1 is the happy-go-lucky money laying, money bed season.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Unequivocally, again, the great thing too with that is it's mythic. It's like the Joker. It's like Joker's Dark Knight amount of money. It's that sort of like, it's a huge, like, comical amount of money. It's great. And again, I love it. This is like the fun reminder of the hypocrisy versus the traumatizing lesson with Hank later with, oh God, yeah, you did this for your family, eh? Well, no family anymore. But speaking of the rift between Walt and Hank.
Oh boy. All right, folks. So I'm just going to say I think Confessions is the most underrated episode in the show's history. Dragon, oh my God, that videotape.
I was gobsmacked by it, Tiki. I truly was.
It was a punch in the gut, Dragon. I like, it felt like I had the wind knocked out of me watching it.
I argue it's Heisenberg's greatest plan in the series.
I would argue it's Heisenberg's most evil moment. Most evil, like most sheerly malicious.
I'd be inclined to agree with you, yeah.
I just because it's so personal. Yeah, I mean, that confession videotape, my friends, just go back and watch it. It's absolutely chilling. I mean, it just, oh God, doesn't it just give your stomach just backflips, Dragon?
It does, but just I want to fuel it a little bit here. So
Sure.
It really makes Confessions really sing and really hit and just be like the perfect, just the build, because just by proxy, this is like Walt's big move once Hank is on his heels. So I love that. What just makes all this Hank stuff so tragic is that just as Walt and Skylar were in a good place, Walt is retired. We tease up at the end of the first half of 5 is like, hey, here's the happy ending for Breaking Bad. He made the money.
Speaking of which, we should probably just give some props to that absolute torture that was the pool shot. You remember the pool shot, right?
Yeah.
Oh God. So just for context, folks, before Hank makes his little trip into the bathroom, we're all watching season 5 with bated breath. We know that the cliffhanger's about to come on and the show's not going to be back for like a year. And it's just like this long tracking shot around the pool. Dragon, I thought for sure that there was going to be some sort of sniper that went off or something, Oh man. The directing on just how much it lingers on that pool is honestly like one of the most understated Vince Gilligan, like, not directing moments. I don't know. I forget who directed that episode, but whoever directed that episode, great directing choice. Anyways.
But yeah, it's just, I love that we tease up the potential happy ending where things actually have gone great now and we can walk away. But then Hank finds leaves in the grass in the bathroom. Mm-hmm. I gotta tell you, I know they didn't do it, but I gotta tell you, it always pops in my head every time I watch it. If you're ever gonna have a dramatic poo joke done right, if you were ever gonna do it, I mean, it would be justified in that moment of like, Hank, like, what other reaction would the man have in that moment? I'm just saying, if you ever were. Anyway, in all seriousness, the leaves in the grass, ultimately, that's Walt's cockiness. As Walt gets really cocky this season, which, of course, leads to some sloppiness, the whole, like, because I say so moment to Mike, where he's getting really reckless with that magnet. And of course, ultimately, Gale gets the last laugh in the end after getting shot in the face. It's the last laugh. So Hank's deeply hurt by this. We have the garage confrontation, the very famous, tread lightly scene. Where I got to tell you, Hank, I don't like the way you're looking at me. Bam! How could you do this, Hank? If you're suggesting what I think you are, you should tread lightly. So Hank's going after Walt really big time this season. So the ultimate Heisenberg move, confessions, pinning it all on Hank, and essentially Walt has the ultimate leverage here in that he's mixing in the truth with basically pointing the finger at Hank.
That's exactly what makes it so evil, is how he just mixes in the truth so much that it's so muddled that it's impossible to disprove.
Because think about it, Hank punched him. We see that. I mean, Marie, the hospital bills were paid from drug money.
I love it.
From the meth. You could probably track the bills if you wanted to be uber thorough. Regardless, it's that, and it's also just going back to the pilot. And I love, my favorite thing about Confessions, by the way, is that it is inspired from Walt making the videotape will, like the confession of his own, in the very first episode of the pilot, where he thinks he's about to kill himself.
Exactly. So it all comes together, yeah.
And again, like Hank showed him the meth lab in the first thing, showed him took him to the sting operation. It's all there. It's just utterly perfect. Now, just with the war of Walt and Hank, just briefly before we move on, I love the ethical argument at play between the two of them, because amidst this kamikaze solution that Walt poses, think about it. Walt in the garage scene and the scene right before when Walt's trying to smooth things over before he pulls out the confessions, kind of like bolt in the chamber, if you will. Mm-hmm. The argument is, Walt's cancer is back, which is the big tension of season 2. Like, well, Walt's cancer is back. He has roughly, just given how the passage of time works, it could have been 6 months, but let's just say 6 months to a year if I'm just going just by the bacon itself,
Yeah.
So he's got 6 months to a year left since the cancer diagnosis. And, he's your family, technically, and also all this stuff would blow back on you. So there is an excellent point. Like, why wouldn't you just let sleeping dogs lie on this? The damage has been done. He's going to be dead in a certain amount of time. Maybe if he agrees not to do the chemo, maybe that would be a compromise. I don't know, but
oh well. The thing is that's Hank's personality, Dragon. It's Hank's nature. That's it's like the
immovable
Joker
object.
Thank you, Dragon. Thank you.
The unstoppable force versus the immovable object.
Exactly. Yes.
But it's what's great about it, Tiki, though, it's a warring sense of pride between the two of them, where Walt's thing is about pride, and here so is Hank's, where Hank is the reminder to us.
There is no way that Hank is going to drop it. Like that.
I know.
It's not in his DNA whatsoever.
But I love that there is kind of like an inkling of logic to Walt saying, though. I just love that the confessions of it all. That's again, it's a cruel move, but there is a point to it all. Where like, hey, force this on me, because Walt's greatest weapon is logic, and I love that.
Sure.
And Hank's side of things too. It's the reminder in this last half of the season, and I know we build it all throughout. How terrified Skylar is at the top of things, and just through season 2 is that, yeah, folks, Walt is unequivocally the bad guy here, and Hank's the reminder of that. It's like, yeah, Walt has gone really far. I mean, he's killing people in prison. He's doing all sorts of shady stuff. I mean, Hank is the kind of the reminder of justice, versus this compelling character that has lost his soul over 5 seasons. As compelling as he is, he's completely lost his soul. He's become the bad guy. And the heady thing that occurred to me rewatching the season is that
I feel like I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Walt saved Hank's life in season 4 but to do that, to save Hank's life, he poisoned the kid, he poisoned Brock, and he killed Gus Fring. But again, that was to save Hank. So there's just such kind of an apropos thing where, as right as Hank is, Walt does have a point.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say, I feel like the big, the big turning point for Walt here is the fact that, he can't, if he, obviously he can't just dispose of Hank out in the desert either. That's also not an option. It's just wrestling with Hank has to, it's just figuring out that kind of solution, that middle ground. It's such a tightrope.
Walt thinks he can, the error in Walt here is that he thinks he can he can manipulate Hank into a position like Jesse, where Jesse
Right,
has no
right.
choice but to go along with it. And basically, there's hope that he could maybe get him to just kind of go along with it. Like, I think Skyler's probably the better example. Skyler went along with it at a certain point. So perhaps the same could be said for Hank, but that's not going to happen. It's not going to go.
And then I also thought of the other thing I was going to say is that I feel like the Rorschach test for Walt, for people in season 5, is if people see what he pulls in season 5 and still think it's, oh my god, so badass.
Mm.
You know what I mean? It's like, I feel like those people, it's like, all right, you know what, you might want to you might want to re-examine it. You might just morally, you might want to re-examine what you're thinking is so badass there, boys.
And Hank never sinks to Walt's level, technically. He never, like, for example, Marie was going to take Holly in that really tense scene, like, give me back my baby. And just Hank just step in and, like, Marie, give her the baby. It's like, Marie! It's Dean Norris killed it in season 5.
Oh, he really did, man. Absolutely.
All right, so then we get to the Granite State. Now, Granite State is one of my favorite episodes.
This is yours, man. I always, I like it. I like it, but I always think it's a little too slow. I don't skip it when I do my rewatches, but I always just kind of like, all right, here's Granite State. Time to, kind of take a breather a little bit.
Now, to my recollection, I'm pretty sure about this, Granite State was Peter Gould's directing debut. Of course, Peter Gould went on to be Saul's papa. Well, he was already Saul's papa. He created the better...
Oh, God. The papa word is on the mind because of that Stranger Things trailer, if you saw it, Brendan.
But yeah, of course, very much the daddy of Saul. So always Peter Gould's going to have that feather in his cap, but still, it's the fact this is a big one of the big strengths of Saul is a sense of aftermath and the emotions and the introspections. We see a lot of that here, and also a big thing too with Granite State. We set up Better Call Saul. We set up the Cinnabon.
Oh yeah, that is probably one of the bigger feathers in Granite State's hat, I think.
Of course. So as I realized rewatching Granite State, and of course having the affinity we have for Saul Goodman even more so now. Saul Goodman has a really key role in this episode outside of the Cinnabon, is that he calls out Walt on basically undoing his whole original point. The whole money. I'm doing this to raise money for my family before I'm gone. Where Walt, despite his some really stellar acting from Bryan Cranston on the phone, basically just playing up the bad guy aspect of himself just to make Skyler look good in the eyes of the law, when he's just playing it all monstrous and everything. Basically making her the innocent victim and everything. So in doing that, again, he thinks he saved his family, but Saul points out, no, you've actually you bankrupted your family now because you didn't give them the bodies, and you cannot give them the bodies at this point. They're going to be gunning for him for everything they're worth and always following him to the day, until you're found, which is not going to be ever, especially if you die.
Yeah.
So that's I just saw bringing that up,
So in a lot of ways, that kind of speaks to the existential dread that Granite State represents.
Yes, and I have another epiphany. So Ed Gilbraith, the disappearer, of course, the wonderful Robert Forster is no longer with us, but wonderfully we got in him in each iteration of the Albuquerque verse, which I think is really special. And
I
what's
think
really
that
great
is really neat too. Yeah,
and it's one episode each time.
So
and also the other thing too is that it's one episode, 3 appearances in the Albuquerque verse, and also for 3 characters at major turning points. For Walt, for Saul, with the big moment we're at in Better Call Saul, the cold open there, and of course Jesse.
Of course.
Okay, yeah. So I realized the significance of Ed Gilbraith on the rewatch here is that he is the one who broke bad, Tiki. He's the master criminal Yoda.
Oh man! Oh damn! You're absolutely right. That's a good observation there.
Up to this point, the closest we had was Mike. Now, Mike, obviously, he didn't get away with it in the end, which is tragic. But that's saying in a sense, he's Mike's replacement in terms of his kind of like the wise Solomon to each of these characters. But beyond that, again, he's the guy who broke bad and got away with it, and he didn't get greedy or anything. He just has a business that thrives. He makes a boatload of money, $125,000 every time someone disappears. And if they stick around like Walt, that's an extra $50,000. That's a lot of money. It's just kind of wonderful. And he's the guy who's been there, seen all. He really kind of gives Walt. He's not there to help Walt. He's there to lay it out for him. Where would you, if I gave you the money to give to my family, would you do it? Would you believe me if I did? If I said yes? It's like, oh God, it's heartbreaking, but it's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And also, big takeaway of Granite State too, I would argue, is the death of Heisenberg, because he pulls out that hat and we instantly undercut the hat where he tries walking out and he doesn't, and then we begin to have like the Walt with hair, Walt just dying of cancer very, very sadly in a cabin alone. And by the way, I'm sorry, last thing I'll say about Granite State, and we'll move on, is that the cool things about Granite State is that both Jesse and Walt are both in prisons of their own making in this episode. They're both in utter isolation because if Walt leaves, because he's so hot globally, he cannot leave that cabin, which we know he does, which pretty much makes his death a certainty.
Sure.
But yeah, Jesse is utterly in an actual prison. That is kind of his actions have brought him to. Andrea is killed in this episode. Andrea is killed in this episode, and it's just he's tortured horribly. So it's just so sad to see
the way that it's revealed too. That photograph, right?
I know the photo. Yeah, we had the photograph, and then this episode is where he's brought to the house and watch Todd shoot her in the head.
Oh my God, Jesus!
And it's so tripped again. The whole Todd thing. Or Todd has a twisted friendship with Jesse, and ultimately, I love that Jesse Plemons, but it's the namesake. Jesse Plemons wants to be Jesse Pinkman.
Yes.
And to do so, he essentially we're supposed to kill Jesse, and he says, "No, let's not kill Jesse. We need to know. We need to get information from him, and also he could cook for us. And he just wants to befriend him and treat him nicely. But his version of treat him nicely is, "Hey, I'm going to kill the woman you love in front of you. Bam, right in the head." We're pals, right?
Right, exactly.
Oh, Todd. Oh, Toddy. Right, so again, obviously, it's a big emotional episode, Granite State. Good stuff.
Oh, yeah. All right, so next up, we get to the bad. So breaking up the seasons, Dragon, I feel like it was kind of a necessary evil, and I do think that it kind of gives like a nice sort of like part 1, part 2. Like you said, part 1 is kind of like the rise, and then part 2 is obviously the fall. But folks, I did get the cold open of episode 9 spoiled for me, and I will never forgive Entertainment Weekly for that. And because of that, I can never fully, I don't know what it's like, Dragon. I don't know what the experience of the payoff of the episode 1 cold open and seeing that payoff live instead of literally reading a paragraph about it in a magazine is like. So yeah, that's kind of a big bad for me. It's it's nothing to do with the show itself. But it is unfortunately a pretty major black mark on my experience with the season.
Yeah, it's not.
Spoilers suck, Dragon. Spoilers suck. That's all I can say.
Yeah, I don't envy the position you were in with that. But
yeah,
I will say, for me, it's always been just looking at without that in mind, just looking at the season breakup. It's always been just less bad, more weird. Like, why not call it season 6 or something? Why is the first season was less than 8? Why call it still season 5? It always made it a little weird, especially when you're collecting it volume by volume is a little odd.
Right.
But again, it's two. It basically kind of made the sense this season's too awesome for one season. All right, so let's broach the Skylar of all. Now, I want to be absolutely fair to Skylar here. Okay, obviously by the second half she's completely fine. Nothing's wrong with Skylar in the second half. The first half, though, there's kind of a bump towards the start. I
feel like the moment where she points out the money pile to Walt is the moment where it's like, all right, we're kicking Skylar into high gear now.
Yeah, exactly. That money thing onwards when she. That's why it's hard for me to say it's fully season first half. Because here's what works in that first half. Okay, she's the whole prisoner in the relationship angle. We use her as a way of demonstrating. Oh God. We recontextualized our feelings on Walter White. We're terrified by him. We're in her shoes. I don't fully buy the reasons we're in her shoes, but the performance is very much selling me on, even though I don't fully buy into the logic.
Sure.
Because again, emotionally, okay, I absolutely feel sympathy towards Sky, which was lacking in some other seasons. You mean it was like season 2, namely. But yes, I mean, Skylar. For the thing that essentially doesn't work for me is she was so smart in season 4, and
there's a little bit of a regression.
Yeah, that's the thing, because we did so good with Skylar in season 4, the car wash and everything, and she was so smart. And we just take the ending with her, and we show that scene again, which does not help this, where it's like she now is suddenly, hey, someone was trying to kill you, and you prevented that, but now I'm afraid of you. And I mean, I know it caused an explosion. And
they linger on the point too long, Dragon. I feel like that's the issue. It's like, all right, like now Walt has become the monster and I won, and like, oh, like I don't know what you're capable of.
Yeah.
That's all well and good. I just, like you said, I feel like it does get a little too repetitive of like, you're the monster, Walt. I don't know what you've done. It's like
and what really doesn't help,
like you said, it's kind of it's backtracking more than anything else. We're not moving the character forward when we linger on stuff like that.
And unfortunately, tacked on like infamous moments to make it stand out, which is why I really just can't blow over it, because you have like she's just waiting for Walt to die. It's just like, what are you waiting for? I'm waiting for the cancer to come. I'm waiting for you to, like, really, that's your proactive solution to this situation after you're so
right?
smart with car wash. And like she literally says, I don't know what my plan is. It's like, really? That's
like, yeah. I mean, after season 4, like you said, it almost kind of feels like she could have like very easily developed a plan by herself to get Walt out of the picture.
Yeah, I don't buy that she regrets that much. And like,
so what, Dragon? I feel like I feel better for bad mouthing Skylar this time around, because I feel like we're not bad mouthing her. We're kind of like the writers almost did her a disservice here. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like we're doing like the petty things, like the birthday mug. She took Walt's 51 like speed limit over 51 or something. Like, it's a cute little mug, and she's like smoking into it just to spite him. And
that's the kind of petty bullshit with Skylar that people don't like. And
the whole really shut up thing to Marie, shut up, and
oh dear God, oh God.
And again, I contemplated. By the way, Tiki, we need the image back, but I contemplated this for the image, but the pool scene, I think, is like the infamous shot of it all, where you just have Anna Gunn giving the dumbest face in that pool during her suicide attempt, which basically is her olive branch to burden the poor Schraders with their kids.
Yeah,
it's just like kicking, like Walter Jr. justified. Why am I leaving? What did I do? It's like, no, we need you out of the house so we can figure things. But didn't you already do that last season? Well, we need to do it again. Anyway, she gets really offended by them watching Scarface, which I love the symbolism of, they're watching Scarface and Mr.
Yeah, that's fun. That's fun.
Cute. All right, so beyond, anyways, she improves vastly at the money pile onward. So
sure. Okay, let's see. So yeah, the neo-Nazis are a step down from Frang Dragon. I really there's literally nothing they could have done unless they made Mike the main antagonist or something.
Which would not have made any sense.
No, it wouldn't have. So it's like, because as we keep saying with Frang, they had 3 seasons of build up with that guy. They had 2 full seasons before he became the big bad of the show, So they no matter how you sliced it, they weren't going to get another Frang. But I feel like with the neo-Nazis, like, Todd is great. Like, Todd is he's a wonderful addition to the Albuquerque verse.
But here's the thing, and here's the line, Tiki.
Yeah.
Here's why we don't need the neo-Nazis. We can still have Todd. Vominos. We get him through Vominos. See, here's what I buy, okay? Todd having an Uncle Jack with the prison connections for, the whole, for the Star All Over Again montage. That's in the first half. That's all we need with Uncle Jack. The fact that he has an uncle who has guys in prison.
There's enough conflict with just Todd himself.
Yes.
To have made Todd the antagonist of the entire season. And I think it would have been all the more interesting and personal if that's the direction they went with it.
And here's the line of believability that crosses for me, because again, all the stuff in that first half makes sense. There's a plot reason, and Todd has a connection with the uncle and the uncle's prison. But beyond that, I don't buy that neo-Nazis would really be able to run a meth empire.
They literally come out of nowhere, Dragon. That's kind of the problem I have with them, because
it's too easy.
We spent 4 seasons in this world. We've literally had no mention of neo-Nazis at all until this. So
they come in, they take over, and the only reason we need neo-Nazis is for the very kind of the Ozymandias movie, if you will. We need them for the Hank moment. We need they're menacing and they're monsters to Jesse Pinkman. That's their role. That's why we need neo-Nazis. But beyond that, I I mean, I think the idea was supposed to be they're what you expect an ordinary meth empire to be, where it's just kind of a bunch of scary guys with tattoos who are just kind of
Okay,
making meth.
let me float something out to you.
What?
Do you think Uncle Jack was a mistake? Like characterizing him as much as they did, trying to make him into something.
I mean, I feel terrible that I forgot the actor's name, but because he played Matches Malone in Gotham, he did a really good job in that role. But Uncle Jack himself, again, in a smaller role, he was interesting and he had some personality, and I liked the performance, but I do not buy what he does outside of. I don't buy he would be that enterprising. I buy that he's.
I feel like the problem with Uncle Jack is that it was like because he has so much screen time. It's almost like the writers are like, oh, you guys like meth empire guys, right? Like you guys like bosses. Well, here's another boss, but he's a neo-Nazi.
Like and, we need someone who's basically Gus Fring, but he's all box cutter. That's what we need.
Right.
Which just does not. It's not the same.
Yeah, and I honestly kind of feel like if the neo-Nazis were more just kind of like, let's say like a Christopher Nolan-esque like presence, but they didn't really have a lot of character, because I don't really think you need the character outside of Todd. Maybe just give Uncle Jack the one scene just to establish that he's there. I don't know, man. Something about the execution just kind of feels a little off. I feel like they tried to make Uncle Jack in particular into a bigger thing than they possibly could have with the time that they have.
I can respect that we're not just doing the cartel again, though. I can respect that we're trying a different direction, but it's, I fully agree with you, Tiki. Perhaps going in the Todd direction might have bore more fruit.
Sure. Okay.
But speaking of Todd.
Yeah. Oh boy, Lydia.
Lydia's complicated because I don't think she's necessary. Here's the thing, because I think she serves the story well, but she's a little much.
My only issue with her is that I kind of feel like her scenes tend to drag a little bit. We kind of focus in on her eccentricities a little too much. Like, oh, look at that Lydia. She's all quirky and paranoid.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, Tiki, rewatching that with a fine-tooth comb on the Lydia stuff, there were things that popped up, man.
I'm not surprised.
So she is essentially Lydia is she's the antithesis of the very cool and collected, ever lovable Mike Ehrmantraut. That's their whole shtick. That she's worried, she's stressed and paranoia wrapped up in in red shoes.
Sure.
The big role. The reason we need Lydia is that Madrigal is very necessary. That was one of my favorite episodes, one of my low key favorite episodes of at least my favorite cold open of season 5. Personally, I love the opening of Madrigal episode 2 with Schuler and the tater tots and the French. I love it so much.
And I do think that Lydia's presence is more tolerable in Better Call Saul.
It is, well. And again, it's more like she has scenes with Mike and Gus Fring, so it makes it a lot more.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like her being there explains how Gus Fring amassed so much power and got so big, how the empire of it all. That's her role. That's why she's in here, and I get that. The magical aspect of her plays fine. That's entirely what she is in Better Call Saul, which is why that works. She's all magical. But basically, let me put it this way: at the end of the day, I don't buy that she's survived this long in this business because she's so murder happy.
I totally agree. 100%. She's like, not only is she murder happy, but she's also like the definition of the word sketchy dragon.
Yes, she S plus. Let me give you an example. Here's what I call in the rewatch. Really stuck out to me. I'm sure you're gonna love this. She escalates very irresponsibly.
Yes,
Let me give you 2 lines. Okay, so she said, so we saw what happened when the DA entered, pretty much like they did with Schuler. They're very calm, cool, they're like, hey, we have a warrant, we'd like to talk to you. It's the Hank Schrader finesse. We saw how that went down. We saw that scene. Like, she pointed out the guy in the warehouse. That's it. So here's what she reports back to Mike. The DEA barged in and they were shouting at me.
Oh my god. Yeah.
And then when Jesse shows up and just to show how scared she is, like, I'm not going to apologize for being cautious. And they're like, being uncautious. Something along the line, paraphrasing a little bit, mind you, to get to the line. Not being cautious leads to being gang raped by prison guards.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
This is what I'm saying. I question how she survived.
A little on the nose. Just a little on the nose.
Also, she put a hit out on Mike.
Yeah, you don't do that.
He's the only guy who knows what he's doing.
Yeah. I don't know. I think she is honestly like the biggest black mark on season 5 because she's the thing where I want to fast forward for her through her scenes when we get to them.
That said, and God help me, I think she and Todd they kind of make a cute couple. I gotta be honest, a twisted couple, and that's the point. I think they make a twisted couple in a sense. Like I think they kind of deserve each other in a sense.
Right. Okay. So yeah, let's get right into the breaking then.
Yes.
Okay, so speaking of Todd Dragon, we have Dead Freight. Dead Freight.
This is easily the most important episode in the first half of season 5, unequivocally. This is kind of like if Ozymandias is in the back half, this is the Ozymandias of the first half.
Absolutely. Dragon, I just vividly remember being so happy. Like I just had like an oh my god, Breaking Bad cold opens are back, baby. They're back. Just that image of the tarantula in the jar and me having no fucking clue how it's gonna pay off, and then seeing how it does pay off, and then like realizing that you hear a train in the background.
It's literally the train beckons the boy, and that train horn is what's gonna.
Oh, I mean, Dragon, another one where I just I don't think it got me as emotionally just gut punched as Confessions did, but it was close.
So there's a lot. Obviously, there's a lot with Dead Freight. I gotta be precise here. So, one, it's a great heist episode. It's the perfected heist episode. What I love so much about the train heist as a whole is that it's taking criminality to one of its most old school examples. It's an old west setting
totally.
in our desert. It's like literally it's a train.
It's the closest thing that Breaking Bad has come to like full blown western.
I mean that and El Camino. That's as close as you get to the western. And so utterly gobsmacked by, of course, so we pull off the heist wonderfully. Got some good Bill Burr QB action going on throughout all of it. It's perfect. There's tension. It's everything you could ask for. And then, young Drew Sharp shows up on his dirt bike with a little tarantula in the jar, and he's waving the Todd. Big mistake. And Todd shoots the kid, and we just see Jesse Pinkman's horror. Now, I love the foreshadow in the episode. And that Mike basically makes a whole point when they're planning this heist. The whole idea is like, we can't just take the methylamine because then they're going to notice it's missing. And then there's two guys we're probably going to have to kill because we can't have any witnesses. So we set up there cannot be any witnesses. So then Jesse comes with the bright idea, thanks to the straw with the Coke in it. Like, hey, we can't, maybe we put the water in there to replace it. We water down the meth they have. So no witnesses utterly proves like, oh God, Todd is acting on Mike's idea there, which is very bad.
Oh God, yeah. It's so twistedly ironic. Yup.
He keeps the tarantula, which we see in a little terrarium.
Pet, little pet. Maybe Lydia will think it's charming. Maybe that's honestly my headcanon, Dragon. It's honestly my headcanon. It's
he hasn't met Lydia at that point yet, though, hasn't he?
Okay, fine. Are you sure he hasn't worked with her before?
I'm very certain about this, Tiki, yes.
Okay, fine.
This is back in the bomb. He's still vomitous at this point.
Okay. I thought my headcanon was like, I'm going to take this home for Lydia and she'll...
No, you're right. Your headcanon still works, though, Tiki. It's just the fact of after he meets Lydia, like, hey, I got my tarantula. Maybe she can come to my fancy apartment that we see in El Camino.
Exactly.
And she can look at the little tarantula at my terrarium. He put in a little terrarium, which freaked the guy out.
Oh, God.
But speaking of which, I had symbolism attributed to this tarantula. You can tell me how crazy I am. The tarantula is Jesse.
Oh, yeah, I totally think so as well. Absolutely.
We have the whole runner of Jesse not harming a bug, except when it comes to a fly, and the fly being Gale and everything. But the point being is, playing with the beetle and everything, like the tarantula and the kid. And Todd just keeping that prisoner as like a pet. And again, I love that it's like Todd is a sociopath, but he's not necessarily, in his eyes, he's not quite evil. In that he's thinking like, oh, this is like a little memento. He's like the tarantula or something. He's like thinking fondly of this whole story, and this is like a memento of the story, not realizing, oh yeah, it's also a reminder, you freaking psychopath, of you killing a child.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, Todd, again, I had an analogy for Todd. I think Todd is Heisenberg's Jesse Pinkman. Not Walter White's Jesse Pinkman, but Heisenberg's Jesse Pinkman.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that.
It's the one that will compromise to make, they'll kind of like the Walter White, like Heisenberg will poison a child to get what he wants.
Sure.
And Todd just took that to the lethal level. And of course, I think one of the most genius choices of direction is the aftermath of Dead Freight, where we dissolve the dirt bike in lieu of the child's body, and then we pan over to the kid's hand in the dirt. Like that to me was really chilling.
Oh yeah.
But I'm sorry, but this isn't on our list. I'm sure you're gonna love this. I want to mention it real quick. I realized something on the rewatch of season 5. Huel is the key to everything in the Albuquerque verse. Huel, think about it. So again, in the end of the day, Hank finds Walt because of Huel, because of we go visit Huel with the money and everything. Huel, he lifted the ricin. Jesse figured out, put two and two together.
Yeah.
Like Huel lifted the ricin. Of course, in Better Call Saul, Huel is of course he's very key in the friendship with Saul Goodman, but also in the big the Chuck trial. That whole again, yes, Huel seems to pop up at all the very big points in the Albuquerque verse. He's kind of the key to everything.
I can see it.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's talk more sad stuff.
All right. Honestly, I think you're the big fan of this. I mean, I think the moment's great, but I don't. If I were voting, I don't necessarily think it fits into breaking per se. Like it's a very effective death scene, and I like how understated and quiet it is, but I don't know. To me, it's never stuck out as like one of the mind-blowing moments of the show. So why don't you shed some light on it?
I think it's more mind-blowing in the fan perspective sense, Tiki, in that. So the tragic fate of Mike Ehrmantraut, when we look back on Mike, similar to Walt, this is a guy who, he was doing all this to get money for his family, i.e. Kaylee Ehrmantraut specifically. And, we saw this during the big money scene in the bank. So
yeah.
Heisenberg, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. Sorry, my notes wrong. Hank. So Hank, there's that big moment at the top of the season. Why the heck, if Mike's the key to getting the operation back up and running again, because he'd be the distribution angle, filling in for Fring. How the heck is he ever going to agree to this? So Hank does a big jerk move. He takes the money from Kaylee, which is really always breaks my heart. Like, oh, Hank took all of Mike's money for Kaylee. And I love the ethical line that is drawn. And I love this with the whole Hank Walt debate. That the big ethical argument they have is that if you think about it, we spent all of Better Call Saul kind of proving this even further. But even in Breaking Bad, is that the money is earned. Even though it's through criminal enterprise, the money is earned. It becomes bad not because of how it's earned. It becomes bad because of the choices made by the people buying it, by the people that are creating the empire and the enterprise and everything. Those are bad choices. That's what makes the money bad in the eyes of the law. And the world cannot accept criminality. The world cannot accept the fact that crime pays. It's a sad fact, but it's a true fact. And that's what the whole show's predicated on. Crime pays, which is why we do it. And, the government gets away with all the millions. The government gets all of Kaylee Ehrmantraut's money. And, that's kind of sad. And I just love that there is kind of a little bit of an argument there within like Mike is actually doing what Walt says he's doing in the series. What ultimately the truth is he's doing it for himself. And I love that ultimately being Mike's fate, where they have that Walt's ego is severely bruised by the truth of a man who truly follows. Mike's a simple guy. He does the job. He's the henchman, but he's a henchman of the highest order.
Yeah.
All about the job. He's no vision, no ego, where Walt is all about the ego. And, if Walt was ever true to his reason, he would be Mike. He would have no complaints. Gus Fring would be alive. They're making millions. People would not be hurt. Things would be in control. And of course, it's the fact that Mike's death is an inevitability, and it's just so sad when you realize, like, oh God, Mike has to die, otherwise Walt will never be the drug kingpin he has to be, because Mike will be there to get in the way, and just Mike saying, "Shut the f up and let me die in peace." It's a beautiful way for Mike to go out on his own terms and just tell Walt, your hypocrisy. I can't buy it anymore. And it's just so sad. Kaylee never got the money to say goodbye to her pop-up. It's very sad.
Right. Well said. Okay. Next up, Ozymandias. All right. Dragon, the hype for this episode was out of control. I think even before season season 5 part 1 started airing, people were talking about this particular episode. Like, I had no idea what happened, but I knew it was going to be cataclysmic. And oh my God, it was. And that last act of Tahajali absolutely did a great job of setting things up. Like, how can you go? Like I said, Dragon, that cliffhanger was brutal. It was fucking brutal. It's like, not only, think about it. Like, not only is that the most brutal cliffhanger that we've probably ever had in Breaking Bad outside of maybe the season cliffhangers, but also that's the cliffhanger that leads into what people have been saying for over a year in the world of like the fan community and hype and all that. The best episode of the show, maybe the best episode ever on TV, period. And somehow Ozymandias lived up to that, Dragon. Somehow it did.
It's the MVP of season 5 in the series.
It's the MVP of Breaking Bad, I think.
Yeah, the series, yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
It's a movie in itself, truly. And of course, when linked to the other ones, it becomes an actual movie by length and running time too. But yeah, it's a movie, and it's all right. Like, think about it. We opened this with the flashback to Tahajali with the first cook and everything. I love the fact that that's where Walt buried the barrels. He buried them sentimentally in the first place they ever cooked. That's a sweet notion. And of course, I love the progression of the barrels, by the way. Like, we put Victor in the barrel to Drew Sharp, and then ultimately to the reason behind all these deaths, the money. The money goes in the barrels in the desert, where it all started.
Sure.
So Hank's death, massive, massive thing. And this to me is, again, I think earlier, so Skyler pointing out all the stacks of money, that was the non-lethal explanation of Walt's hypocrisy. Like, you're doing this for you, not your family. Where Hank's death and the fallout of Hank's death, where of course his family turns on him. That's the true wake up call. We have like the gobsmacking zoom into literally the Ozymandias moment, where it's the big statue of Ozymandias, where like the shattered empire, the statue's head on the ground, Walt topples over. That's the Ozymandias statue. That's the empire being brought to ruin by the man's ambition. Like, the earth shatters beneath him and everything. And you remember the marketing, too, for this. The whole, like, Cranston reading the poem and everything. It was great.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
I love, in season 5, we have the inner motivations here. Where, like, there's always been a jealousy amongst, Hank and Walt that's been kind of building through the Walter Jr. of it all. Where, ultimately, Hank was the father figure to Walter Jr. that Walt was to Jesse Pinkman.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where, that's kind of what leads to the ruin of Walt's family in that big knife scene, which I always think Skyler kind of instigated how bad that went, by the way.
Well,
it worked for the story. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying, always like, see, Sky kind of started that.
Can you blame her at that point, though, Dragon, honestly?
I mean, a knife of all things, does she need to pull it? No, it's dramatically interesting. The symbolic, she's trying to cut the cancer out of their life. I get it. It's cool, yeah. But the bigger point is that Junior lies for his mother in spite of his father. That's the bigger takeaway. That's the more heartbreaking takeaway. And of course, is his realization: we're a family. That's Walt realizing my whole reason for the series has been a lie. I've not been doing this for my family because look at what happened.
Yeah, Junior stepping in there. That is easily, without a doubt, the best Junior moment, right?
I mean,
like,
I love the phone
right there. That moment right there is probably why we have Junior in the show to begin with.
I mean, that and also the phone call in Granite State. I think those are the two big Junior moments in the entire series. Because the whole Walt's big line in that scene too was like just him as Walter Jr. is berating him, very justifiably. Walt is just saying on the phone, just Cranston's like heartbreakingly saying, "It can't be for nothing. It cannot have been for nothing."
Yeah.
And if his Junior hates him, and the family is completely cut off, he will not accept that money, which is the whole reason he convinced himself is the whole reason he did everything. And what's really great at Ozymandias when you rewatch it, it ends like an HBO ending. So basically, the series could have ended at Ozymandias if it was on HBO, if like the big ambiguous Sopranos ending. Like, well, this is where we leave everyone. Walt's going off. We're never going to know what happens to Walt. The family. The family's in tragedy. Hank's dead, and Jesse is being taken by the Nazis. So we'll never know. Totally, that's an HBO ending. That's why Ozymandias is unequivocally a movie. It's a HBO movie, really.
Yeah.
An old school HBO movie.
Speaking of Jesse, I love how, like, this is a testament to the episode. The episode is so powerful on so many layers that the moment that Walt confesses to Jesse about killing Jane, I don't want to say it's an afterthought because it's a powerful moment, but it almost gets lost in the shuffle with everything else. You know what I mean?
That's just Walt like completely wiping his hands clean of Jesse. Like,
oh yeah,
I watched Jane die. Like the big Fly episode. Everyone that has opinions about. That was what I was going to say to you. That's what everyone was waiting for, and I gave it to him in this big dramatic.
I mean, just top to bottom, the whole episode is brilliant. You know, just
it is.
The
barrel roll and then the
barrel
pants.
roll.
The
Do
pants.
a barrel roll.
The pants from the pilot.
The pants, yes, absolutely,
Great.
Absolutely.
But I mean, I'm sorry with Hank's death. I mean, do you read it the same way that Hank respects Walt just one iota for trying to save Hank's life in that scene?
I think so. I honestly think if Hank didn't have any respect for Walt, then he wouldn't have given him the time of day and spoken to him before he died. You know what I mean?
That's a good point. Yeah.
Because
they made up their minds 10 minutes ago.
I feel like him saying that was almost him giving Walt closure on what was about to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the way I've always read it.
Yeah.
Anyways. And then, of course, like you said, the family fallout, just fucking how cataclysmic is the moment where he just fucking just goes with the baby and just fucking reverses out the driveway. Oh my God. It's so dramatic, Dragon.
I love that. This is why the show's so compelling, because despite him going full evil, I love that I'm along the journey. I'm still gleaming to like the little slivers of the man that's left, and that
because you're like, but he's a good father. Look at him.
But I mean, like the mama.
Even after he's done that, yeah.
Like again, like that mama is like, he makes the move, and again, when he's making a monster of himself on the phone, I feel sympathy for him, even though I shouldn't.
Yeah.
In that, like, he's always playing it up so he can.
I mean, that's the magic trick in the show. That's the magic trick of the writing.
Exactly, but he doesn't learn until that ending scene with Scott. But speaking of the ending stuff, perhaps we should,
Of course. So, and I'll just also go ahead and drop the banner since we're going to wrap up quickly. The ending. Felina is a great episode. I don't think it reaches the peak of Ozymandias, but what can? But as far as the ending itself goes, Dragon, I really do just think it's super solid. Just the quiet look of recognition between Walt and Jesse just kind of like escaping, and that is kind of like the good kind of ambiguous ending that fortunately we did get a tie-up on. Let's see, and then that final shot is perfect. I really do think it's perfect. That song choice is perfect. Just all about being addicted to, falling in love with your baby blue. And, it's all about how the final scene just literally just does such a great job of recontextualizing the whole show as a love story between Walt and the meth.
True. And the chemistry, yes. Speaking of the chemistry, I just want to loop in one of my favorite things about, Felina. Of course, I love the gray matter revenge that Walt finally got with this.
The gray matter, that is one of the most satisfying things about the whole finale for me is,
I know,
A, he finds a way to get the money to the family, and B, it's through taking revenge on gray matter.
And also there's one of the great moments, again, there's so many great episodes of Five, folks, we cannot possibly talk about them all just by our construct here, but the Walt's big thing about the whole millions, like billions with a B, Jesse, that whole speech about basically selling, he sold his children's birthright in the gray matter company for rent money. And he basically got his revenge by basically through the Schwartzes and trauma and scaring the crap out of the Schwartzes. he got to
also,
we
get to use Badger and Skinny Pete one more time in the show.
I can do you one better. There are two payoffs I don't know if we've thought about, but I mean, it's been we just to show you how much stuff we pay off in the last episode. Remember how they got revenge on the Schwartz. Remember how Badger and Skinny Pete were used, Tiki. What did they do?
Well, they were aiming the laser tag, right?
laser pointers, like
Yeah,
the
the laser pointers. Yeah.
Which again, it's Walt loves lasers. Laser tag. We paid off the laser tag.
Right, I didn't even think about the paying off the laser
and
tag
I can
thing.
do you one better than that. This one's a stretch, mind you, but not as good as the lasers.
Okay.
Okay, so the way Walt saves Jesse, I mean, it is mechanized. Essentially, Walt built the robot from 4 Days Out.
Oh dear God! Oh my God!
In a sense, he built the robot, and while
that's a little bit more of a stretch.
It is, but I'm just saying.
I'll give it to you.
Yeah, I mean, it was mechanized. It wasn't just like a gun. It was like it was a thing. I mean, I know it's a stretch, but it's kind of cool.
Right.
If you lump that in, then we used everything. And also, we killed Todd Jabba style, which is awesome. Killed Jabba. But anyway, so just the factor in the death of Walter White. Then, I love that Walt. My favorite thing of the ending is the blood on the canister of meth, or like the piece of lab equipment, because he died on his own terms, Scarface style. And as he explores that meth lab, he just nostalgically he's ruminating on things, and he used his chemistry skills amazingly, and he lived more in 3 years than he did in 50. We took the mundane mustard stain from the pilot when he was getting the news that basically put his life into perspective. And at the very end, he had the complete opposite fate. He did not die of cancer. He died of a gunshot wound by a robotic gun that he built.
I know, right?
After driving 30 miles from New Hampshire, after he was disappeared, after like this 3 years of amazing, crazy, crime drama of the century TV event that we've seen. And basically, we turned the mustard stain into a red blood stain. We exchanged the mustard for ketchup, but dramatic ketchup, man. and we mirror crawl space, which tell me if you read it the same way. It's a periodic table, right? It's supposed to mirror the opening with the two squares, right?
I would say so. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, so it's great.
All right. Okay, so Dragon, just final thoughts on the show and the season and the series as a whole. I mean, isn't it incredible that Better Call Saul was able to come along and just essentially be like, hold my beer, Breaking Bad.
My Super Nievo.
Right. But in all seriousness, though, I mean, this show is, it's one for the ages. It really is. And I feel very lucky to have been on the ground floor for it. I didn't see season 1 live, but I saw everything else live, and I feel very lucky for that. It was a ride for me. But yeah, I mean, I think it's absolutely going to stand the test of time. It's legendary TV. It's like, I feel like it's going to go down with the best of them, like with the Twilight Zones of the world. I really do. I really feel like it's just, simply put, some of the best, most well-written, most well-produced TV we've ever gotten. And I feel like it really was the breaking point, Dragon. It really was kind of like the watershed moment where TV and film sort of just collided with each other. And I feel like the industry hasn't been the same since.
I agree. Final thoughts from me, just keep it simple. Breaking Bad was next level from the outset. We already kind of knew that, but it raised the bar for the medium of television by the end. I mean, truly. It already kind of did that, but it fully did that in ways we never expected by the end. And I mean, you don't get even... Think about what you don't get without season 5. You don't get Better Call Saul without season 5. You don't get... I'd argue you don't get streaming television. Like, you don't get a Daredevil season 1 without Breaking Bad season 5. Truly. I mean, I don't know how mighty those words are, but I don't think you go next level with the storytelling. Like, okay, so we have this many episodes and we have this much story, and let's just loop it all in and kind of set up and pay off things. Let's have a game plan for our season and really kind of drive it home with the ending. And credit to Vince Gilligan and his brilliant crew of creative individuals who demonstrated a crime drama can be not only cinematic but criminally clever in every way.
All right, well said. Okay, well, folks, the high has worn off, and much like Walter White, we've reached the end. But have an A1 day in the land of enchantment. Until the next visit to the Albuquerque verse, when we resume judging Saul one last time.
Magnets! Oh!